All right. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. This is the session on gardening organically in really, really small spaces with microgreens. So this is part of Bellevue College's Earth Week, where we're exploring topics around climate voices, sharing, listening, and taking action together. So my name's Alyssa Gordon. I am from the BC Office of Sustainability. Today's the last full day of Earth Week, but we still have a really great lineup for the rest of the day. So I highly encourage everyone to check out the schedule that I posted in the chat box. I know everyone is we're all Zoom pros at this point, but I just have a few little details to go over. So all participants are muted upon joining. And we ask that you stay muted throughout the presentation unless prompted by the speaker or myself. Feel free to keep your camera on, as it does make for a little bit more of an engaging session for everyone. As a note, this session is being recorded to later post on the Sustainability Office of Sustainability's website as a resource. So if you wanted to look at it later, you are welcome to. So throughout this session, please feel free to put any comments or questions in the chat box. Just remember to be kind and treat everyone with respect there. There'll also be a Q&A at the end where you can unmute yourself if prompted, or just put your question in the chat box to be read. If you're having any technical difficulties throughout this presentation, just direct message me and I will be happy to assist. So lastly, I'd like to pause to acknowledge that Bellevue College resides on the traditional and occupied land of the Coast Salish peoples, past, present, and future. That includes, but is not limited to, Snoqualmie, Suquamish, Duwamish, Nisqually, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot. We honor their connection to the region, pay respect to Coast Salish elders past and present, and stand in solidarity through their struggles with continued systemic oppression. We commit to care for the land and water and center equity at the core of our learning. All right, so now let me take a moment to introduce our speaker for today's session, BC faculty member Karrin Peterson. Karrin Peterson, aka Prof. Pete, is a professor of English and a self-taught gardener. She likes the challenge of growing food where plants usually don't grow, or when plants are not supposed to grow. And she is addicted to the NASA Food in Space program news. Welcome, Karrin. You can take it away.
All right. Thank you. You can hear me, Alyssa? We're good to go? All right, great. Just want to make sure my speaker's working on my end. It looked like it was, but everything's a theory until you put it into practice. You'll learn that with gardening. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Well, I am, as Alyssa noted, Karrin Peterson, and I am an avid year-round gardener. I have been teaching many years with the Department of English. My background in gardening started when I was a child. My father we had a half acre, and a quarter of our land was put to garden, and we just grew it annually. But I have, with those roots and that interest, I have become interested as time goes on and technologies improve with indoor gardening in particular. And that's what I would like to cover today, is the small urban gardening. Now, can we see this screen that I'm sharing? And there's nothing overlaying it and it's good to go? Okay, great. I think the system works right, even though it shows me something different on my screen. I just want to make sure that's all looking good. Well, anyway, before I discuss the main content today, I would like to share with you what inspired me to create this presentation. Okay. Now, according to the United Nations, in 2018, 55% of the world's population lived in cities. By 2050, that number is estimated to increase 13%. So we'll have a total of 68% urban dwellers by 2050, if these projections come true, and so far they have been accurate and progressing as expected. So there is a trend towards urbanization, which it presents some really unique challenges. And this is again why I'm all geeked out and teching out on this NASA stuff, because we've got some really unique challenges coming for feeding this increasing urban population. Now, at the same time, we're seeing this urbanization trend. Okay. we're having an estimated increase in population through 2050, and then the estimates are that we will start tapering and dropping down. So during this time, the International Panel on Climate Change, which I will refer to as the IPCC, found that in the next 30 years, our food supply and food security will be severely threatened if little or no action is taken to address climate change and the food system's vulnerability to climate change. Food production isn't just being affected by climate change. It is actively contributing to climate change as well in this nasty feedback loop. According to the IPCC's land use report, agriculture and other land uses comprise more than 1/5 of global CO2 emissions. It truly is a vicious cycle, where the very fact of feeding ourselves contributes to the instability and inability to feed ourselves in the future. It just seems like a situation that is ripe for creative thinking. So hence this presentation. Now, with the global urban population boom, there is a huge and growing demand for a more sustainable, accessible, and nutritious food supply. If we don't do it, the situation that we're in implies this great urgency, because the children that are born today will not have reached their graduation age before food access problems will have materialized, according to the IPCC. Not maybe, will have, unless we change things and we get creative. So that actually, again, is getting back to what this presentation is about. It's trying to get that creative thinking going. And in fact, immediate action is necessary to avoid these food access issues. Now, the huge and growing demand for sustainable and accessible and nutritious food provides us with this lovely opportunity for urban farming, I think. The time has come. And in particular, controlled environment farming, to a certain extent, will, I believe, prove a necessary component to sustainability. Okay. Now, NASA's got some, if you just get on NASA's website and look at their hydroponic farms, they're so cool. They're getting them ready for Mars. And they just, they're awesome. Now, they're not really feasible for the home gardener, but some of the things they're doing are. And in fact, we're seeing certain trends in controlled environment agriculture. There's things like, already there's things called vertical farms. We have one down in Kent, run by Elon Musk's brother. We've got a big farm down in Kent that supplies Seattle in a huge warehouse. It never sees the light of day, and it uses a microscopic amount of land and water compared to an open field, and it produces a lot of greens. Other examples of protected agriculture are greenhouses, and frankly, your house and mine. And that's where the opportunity lies, because we as individuals can increase our food resilience and the world's food resilience and our access to good nutrition. In controlled environmental agriculture, crops are grown in the enclosed space where we control the climate, the lighting, and the irrigation. And we can optimize these three things in a way that we can't do outside. Now, lighting, we'll have a discussion on lighting later, because that's an area where we've got some potential sustainability problems in this controlled agriculture. Or if we're doing a big greenhouse, there's another issue, because we've got to heat the thing in the winter. But I'll get into that in just a moment and show you something that you can do that avoids a lot of these things, or there's ways you can do it that avoid, and in fact will dramatically decrease the greenhouse gas emissions that producing fresh greens for yourself and your family may add to the environment. And besides, this particular type of urban and indoor farming, it's more accessible for those of us who are living either in suburbia or in the dense city. And in fact, it doesn't matter where we live. It works. It works as long as you don't even need a home. If you had a vehicle, you could make this work. No kidding. You can be houseless and this can work. That's the miracle of this kind of farming that I'm about to show you, is literally any place you call home, you can make this work. So we're going to go over those strategies today. So I'm pretty excited about microgreens because they are the easiest crop to grow in what's called controlled environment agriculture. And they can be easily grown hydroponically or with soil-like substrates. And we're going to get into the environmental issues with those soil-like substrates shortly. Now, one of the benefits of microgreens and baby leaf plants is they grow fast, 3 weeks. What you see in the picture, those are probably 10-day. The top level is probably a 10-day to 12-day crop. It looks like peas to me. I'm seeing some sunflower greens down on the second shelf. And again, those would be about a 10 to 12-day crop. Down at the bottom, I see earlier crops on the very bottom tier, probably. Those are probably 7-day. But you can get greens in 7 days. And you can get quite a bit of bulk for your salads in 2 weeks. So this kind of shows you what a single rack of food can do for you. The health benefits are they're doing more research and they're studying them, but they're established. Microgreens have high levels, in fact, higher levels of vitamin C, carotenoids, the polyphenols, and the minerals than the adult plants. And I'll tell you something, if you've never had microgreens right off your shelf or right off your windowsill, you haven't lived. The taste of the fresh product it's indescribably different if you haven't had it. And even the microgreens they sell in the store, it just doesn't cut it. They have not just been harvested from your farm. So, and you can taste, and what you're tasting is the loss of nutrients. That's exactly why the other crops don't taste quite as good, at least not to me. I love that flavor of the nutrients. All right. In addition to microgreens, there's what we call baby greens. And here's a picture of baby greens. The prior slide showed you microgreens. And baby greens run a little longer. They're a 3 to 4 week crop instead of a 1 to 2 week crop cycle, but it's still a pretty short period of time. And what we're seeing here would be about, my guess is a 3 week, 21-day lettuce patch grown densely. So that's another option. And I actually prefer my lettuce to be past the microgreen stage. I tend to grow my lettuce into 3 to 4 week crop cycles before I harvest it. So you're looking at the lettuce I'd be looking at going, yum, gonna have salad for supper. That's what I'd be doing, and wandering over to my window or under my grow rack and seeing what's ripe and ready that evening. Now, the first step to getting something to grow is to have something to grow in. There are options ranging from the more expensive products that professionals use, which you're seeing pictures of here. These particular trays are called 1020s because they are 10 by 20 inches. Okay. As you can see, there are 2 types of trays. There's the trays with holes. They will hold the substrate that the plants will grow in, or the tray may be the substrate itself for larger seeds. I grow my pea seeds in a tray just like that with no soil on it, because no other substrate, because I don't have to keep purchasing peat moss or cocoa coir or some other substrate for them, and the peas will grow through. And then I bottom water. I grow them hydroponically. And it's got a few environmental issues too, but it seems to me it's less than keep continually purchasing the soil. Plus there's a cost issue for me. The bottom tray will hold the water at an appropriate level where the water doesn't get up onto the plant and create mold problems. So this is the basic theory you've got to remember, no matter what kind of container you're creating. And I'm about to show you containers you can create without purchasing anything. In fact, you can repurpose garbage. You need to remember you need one container with holes, so water, roots can go down and water can come up. And then you need a container that will hold a modest amount of water away from the green and the growing part of the plant. So that's the theory here. For longer growing microgreens, or like the baby lettuce that I showed you, I like bottom watering pots. I've purchased these. They were $7 off of Amazon just to tinker with them. And I really like that I can water, and then the water is down at the bottom. The water is right down here. I water right in here, and then I can see where the water is. And this takes a lot of watering burden off of me for those 3-week to 4-week crops. And I can just plunk these right in my windowsill. That's why I love them. They're the perfect size. So I line my windowsills with them, and I don't have to use grow lights. And in this particular presentation, I have it hyperlinked so you can find them on Amazon. So this is one I actually found particularly because it fits windowsills so beautifully. Okay. It also does pretty well in a 10-20 tray, so it translates nicely across my different growing areas. But there's no reason to buy that stuff. And in fact, I have a lot of DIY containers as well. I'm not limited to the stuff I bought off of Amazon. This is a picture of a container that came from the grocery store, a used plastic deli container. The lid has been flipped over and placed inside the bottom. Holes have been drilled. You can't see them, but they're there. The holes have been drilled in the lid to let the water go through. And in fact, what did with this tray is drilled a couple of extra big holes on the sides and ran a cotton wick down and into the water. So I now have cotton going underneath the soil in 2 areas, and the cotton wick pulls the liquid up and waters the soil. And that's why you can see a gap between the water and the bottom of that top tray. So these wick containers, and it's easy to find these online. You just say, do-it-yourself bottom wicking container. Google that, and you're going to have a ton of videos that'll help you out. That's all over YouTube. Okay. So you can do-it-yourself containers like these, so you don't have to purchase. Another option, by the way, I didn't show that, was yogurt containers work great, 2 of them, stacked one on top of the other. I do like square things though, because I get a little more crop for my effort than round. But if round's all I got, I'll take those round containers. Plastic water bottles though, and glass wine bottles are good too. And as you can see here, the same bottom watering theme is being played out. In fact, this picture shows plants getting ready to be planted outside. These are starts for spring, as you can see. And as you see the soil, the growing medium, it will be a potting mix. Unfortunately, it looks like it's probably peat moss based, and I dodge that. And when I must use potting mix, I use a coconut coir. I'll get into that later. And then there'll be a wick coming out of the bottom of the bottle, and then you keep water in the bottom, and the wick brings the water up. And you only have to water these things every 2 to 3 days. Even at the height of growing. So it's a system that takes some of the watering burden off you as well. Now, in addition to having something to plant in the container, we have to have some light. Now, these are pictures of the Barina lights that I've used. I've tried a number, since I'm geeking out on this, I have gone through a number of different LED lights experimentally. And these are some of the cheapest and best for microgreens that I've found. These things run about $90 to outfit an entire shelving unit like you saw back up at 4 shelves. They allow me to just grow. I can grow in a closet. And the LED lights, yeah, I've checked the electricity on them, and they run me for the entire rack. It's $2.30 a month in electricity. That's what it's using. $2.30 a month for that entire grow rack with these lights. I have one of those little plug-ins and I check the electricity usage on that. So it's a pretty cheap operation as far as that. And it's relatively sound. Now, the interesting thing is I could, and this is what I do, I actually have positioned my grow lights in some areas where I don't need to have lights above me. In fact, I'm going to show you something right here. I have another more intensive operation behind me. I use my grow lights to light my rooms and I don't use the room lights anymore. So that's one way to save energy. I use LEDs to light, I put them in areas where I can do task work. And so instead of having lights on above me, I do today just for the filming, but normally I don't have the lights on above me. I just wanted to make sure you could see me here in the dark when I shut the screen. But I normally run off of my grow lights. Plus my grow lights produce a little bit of heat, and my house is well insulated. So I heat off my grow light. I never turn my electric heaters on anymore between the grow lights and everything. So I'm double using that electricity that's going to my plants, or triple using it. I'm lighting tasks, I'm heating, and I'm eating. I think that's pretty good way to use this. Now, again, if you want to feed yourself and your family, you're going to probably want to do a bigger operation. This is what my operation looks like right here. I've got 4 grow racks. I've got those lights I showed you. And as you can see, I can do 4 10-20 trays a week. Okay. This particular rack that you see right here produces about, let me look at my notes here. Yeah, 24, I counted them for you. 24 servings of fresh vegetables each week for my family of 4. Okay, and I consider a well-packed, not loose, but a packed cup of fresh produce to be a serving. Now peas, I always grow at least 1 tray of peas, which you see on the second shelf, sometimes 2, because they produce an enormous amount of lovely green foliage for eating. They're better than lettuce for just the sheer volume, plus the protein's higher and the nutrition's higher. Lettuce pea salads, as I call them, are and they're tasty. I mean, if you love fresh peas, you're gonna love this. Tastes just like a fresh pea, sweet and crunchy. They're marvelous. So the pea sprouts are a must. I'll get into Professor Pete's preferred seeds in a little moment here, but I'll just give you there's a spoiler. Peas are on the top of my list. And then I'll grow some other crops that aren't quite as robust in the servings they provide, but they provide very dense nutrition, such as the broccoli. And that's the smaller stuff you see down on the 3rd tier. And then the bottom tier looks to me to be some herbs. I do grow herbs because it saves money. And we'll get into that again a little bit later when I share my favorite seeds with you. So if I will do I do a row a week, 4 trays a week for my family of 4. And again, I get 24 servings. So that's 6 servings of vegetables, 6 cups of vegetables per person per week. That's quite a bit. That's almost a cup a day of fresh greens off of 1 shelving rack. It's just one of those 2 foot by 4 foot shelving racks that you see. You can buy them pretty cheap on Amazon for about $100. So my grow setup cost me about $200. What you're looking at here is about a $200 setup between the lights and that. And then it costs about let's just say $250 a month to run the electricity. Is $230-ish. Yeah, you know, it depends on the rates and what else I'm doing around the house. But we're looking at a couple $100 and then a $2.30 electricity bill per month to run this. And you can use containers other than the 10-20 trays. You just pack them densely and you can still grow an awful lot of food here and you don't have to purchase those trays. You can repurpose different things. All right, but if you don't want to use the electricity or don't want to bother with that big setup and it's just one person, I wouldn't buy, if it's just me, I wouldn't build one of those racks. If I wasn't producing food for a family of 4, I wouldn't build one. I wouldn't have invested in one of those racks or the lights. I just would have put these trays just like this on my windowsill, repurposed plastic right on my windowsill. This is what I would have done. And then I get free light from the sun. That's the most sustainable. Okay. So, and I could even, I suppose could try to build racks that fit in my windowsill. I haven't done it yet. I suppose I could layer them. I could layer them, and then I'd get more. And maybe I should do that for the next presentation and get a picture of that out. All right. Now that we've covered light requirements, we're going to let's go over the substrates. Plants have to have a substrate to grow in, and garden soil doesn't work. Not for microgreens. You simply can't do it. You'll get too much mold and too much fungus. Peat moss is a nightmare, environmentally speaking. We're wiping out the bogs, and it's not working. Cocoa coir has its environmental issues as well. Depends on how it's sourced, but it is on the scale. I mean, cocoa coir is mediocre. Peat moss is a wipeout. Cocoa coir again is mediocre. I'm okay with that level of harm. It is more sustainable than peat. It comes in compressed bricks. When you add water to these, it'll expand into a huge tub of cocoa coir that'll last you 2 or 3 months. So one of these bricks, you got 3 for one person. For me, it lasts 2 to 3 months. So for one person, you're probably looking at 4 months here of growing for the needs for one person if you were producing a cup of greens a day for yourself on your micro farm. And it's relatively inexpensive because it's compressed. However, when I can, avoid using the cocoa coir, and I use these mesh screens. These things cost me about $20 a piece, but you can use these indefinitely. It is stainless steel mesh. You buy it once, you have to make the purchase. Obviously, there's a environmental cost to any purchase we make, but I'm one and done. And there's a technique for cutting off the roots on the back, and then you just pull everything off, scrub it, and put it in your dishwasher, and it's sterilized and it's ready for the next crop. There are certain difficulties in farming with this. I'll discuss them momentarily, but it's doable, and there's a really good instructional website on this. It doesn't hold water as well. That's the main trickiness to it, but it's easy to actually kind of work around that. You just kind of have to get in the habit and screw it up a time or two, like I did. My first few crops were a bit of a wipeout because I didn't water quite enough. You know what happens then. It all wilts and dies, and that's the end of the crop. So it took me about two crop cycles to get the habits down, but it wasn't unworkable. And now that I know how to do it, I reliably produce food on these. This is how I grow all my broccoli microgreens. And then I use the soil substrate for some of the other things because they simply don't grow on this. Basil, because it's a mucilaginous seed, it does not work on this stainless steel. It just molds. There's nothing you can do to make a mucilaginous seed work. It has to have coconut coir under it, or at least a paper towel, and paper towels are kind of mediocre. You're basically kind of almost stuck with the coconut coir for real good production on basil, if you happen to love basil like I do. Now, in addition to a substrate, plants that are in soil pull nutrients from the soil, which is why everybody's into compost and putting compost down and cover crops and that sort of thing. Well, obviously in an indoor farm where you can't use soil because of the soil pathogens, you've got a couple of choices. You can not use nutrients. Your crop will simply be smaller, but it will still be nutritious. The seed itself contains the nutrients, and it simply will expand, and it has a lot of the vitamins. It pulls some if you put hydroponic based solutions in, but the seed itself is still quite nutritious. So you can opt not to do the nutrients. I use them, having weighed out the relative sustainability costs. The fertilizer shipping and production is what's not sustainable. Primarily the production, some of the methods. The Maxi-Grow that you see on the left is dry, lighter weight, easier to store, doesn't go bad. The ocean solution, which is hydrated, is more convenient. It's much easier to use if you're busy and lazy. You do get a bottle that you can plant in when you're done until that bottle degrades in the sunlight because it's not UV stabilized. But you do get a good second life out of it before you put it in the recycling bin. So, I mean, there's good and bad to these things. And MaxiGrow, that thing of MaxiGrow will make you enough solution to last a year. So it's not like you have to buy a lot of this as a small microgreen farmer. Because the point here is we are not fertilizing the rows between our crops. So the reason why fertilizers are such an environmental wipeout is because farming equipment requires wide rows for pickers to walk in, for farming equipment to drive through. And the farmers of big fields just spread this stuff far and wide, irrespective. So they're fertilizing rows where there's nothing growing. And then of course they have to put pesticides down because they've just fertilized their weeds, which then become pesticide resistant, and that works great in that cycle. Many of you are probably familiar with that. So small doses of fertilizers, if we could get this balanced where we use just what we needed, which hydroponics and microgreen farming does, the environmental cost of these fertilizers would plummet. Okay. So when you hear the term, oh, fertilizers are bad, it's like, well, yeah, it's because you're throwing about 50–60% of them down into the waterways and they're getting hauled out to the ocean. Here, everything I put in gets used. The plants suck it up. It's gone. The water's gone, the nutrients are gone. So I throw nothing away. Nothing hits the water table, nothing hits the ground table. And I use minuscule amounts of these. I've used both Ocean Solution and MaxiGrow. That's why I put them up here. I've test driven others, and these are two that I just like the best. No, I'm really not getting, don't mention my name. I get no profit. Okay. I'm just letting you know what's worked for Karrin. Okay. So don't bother mentioning my name for anything any commercial hit I give you here. Because I've tried different things and some work better than others. And these two work really well. The MaxiGrow I find is to be one of the easiest ones to dissolve. It stores well. This sits on a shelf. A small package like this, again, lasts a year. Ocean Solution lasts me 6 months. So that's a long time. And I remember I'm doing the farmer for 4. I'm growing for 4. So these things aren't too bad. All right. Obviously, we now get to the piece de la resistance, the seeds. This is where it starts getting fun, folks. Seeds are they'll have an unavoidable cost. They will have to be produced somewhere. I try to produce as many of my own seeds as I can in my garden. I plant things and let them go to seed. And I save the seeds and I haul them in for microgreen growing or planting the next year. But I can't produce enough seeds. I can't produce enough pea seeds. I can produce enough broccoli seeds, okay, for at least 6 months or so, but I can't produce enough pea seeds to make it through a year. So I'm going to have to rely on farmers somewhere else to help me out with some of this. But a large volume of a small volume of seeds. Let me say that. Across that, a small volume of seeds will produce a large volume of food. It takes me a quarter cup of peas to produce an entire 10-20 tray. That 10-20 tray you saw that was densely packed, that's a quarter cup of peas, dried peas. And it takes me approximately a teaspoon of broccoli seeds to produce an entire 10-20 tray of broccoli sprouts. So it's, again, you have to ship them. But seeds are lightweight. I don't have to refrigerate them when they arrive here. When I go to the store, though, and I buy food, I have to refrigerate it. My microgreens do not have to be refrigerated. And if I've got them in the window, I'm using no electricity to produce them. They're just sitting there waiting for me to eat. Ripe, ready, fresh, stored safely. So it pulls a lot of this environmental stuff out. I have found, again, don't mention my name. These are my favorite seed suppliers, okay? And I've shopped Amazon. I haven't been wowed by the seed viability off of Amazon, and I've had mold problems going there. I have never had mold from Sprout People or True Leaf, and their seeds sprout reliably for me. I mean, like high volumes. They say 80%, 85%. They're not kidding. They're not lying. That seems to be, I've run my own tests on the viability of their seeds, and they've been better than 85% most of the time. They're usually like all of the pea seeds are basically 100%. I've rarely see a pea that doesn't sprout from True Leaf Market. So these two people, and I've hyperlinked them, are, I can also find them on the web. They're these two providers. They're also they're the cheapest. I'm cheap. I mean, I'm cheap as long as it works. How does that sound? You can get cheaper seeds off Amazon, but you're gonna get questionable product. Yeah, Sprout People, I advise you to go check their website out. They're just lovely. They're absolutely lovely people. They're funny. Go read their blogs. It's just a marvelous. They would have marvelous personalities. It's a mom and pop shop. They're wildly passionate about sprouts, even more than I am, if that's possible. And it's just fun to review their website, read their blog posts, and they have a lot of good growing information. And I'm going to give you some tips on where to go to learn how to do this too, because I can't really teach you today. This is something you kind of have to watch some videos, try and screw a few things up, and then watch a few more videos and then do it right. And then it comes to you. You will have to do a little trial and error with this, but I don't mean a lot. Microgreens are something where you're going to mostly have successes. You'll have a few spectacular failures you'll remember, like I do, but most of the time, if you watch a few videos, it's something that's fairly easy to teach yourself to do. Now, let's get on to Professor Pete's favorite microgreens. This is the fun part of seeds. I love going to the seed catalogs, and I always, have to restrain myself, not buy things I don't need, but it's hard when I see seeds because I like to try new things and eat new things. But my favorite seeds are peas, top left-hand corner, right here. I get the speckled peas because I like how they grow better, and they seem to grow just a little bigger than the yellow peas or the green. So pea sprouts, I love them fresh. Oops, sorry, let me go back here. I love them fresh, and I also eat them steamed with peanut sauce in lieu of spinach. So I'll also saute pea greens with garlic. They go marvelously well with teriyaki sauce on rice. So they're a very adaptable vegetable, from fresh to quickly sauteed, that healthy sauteing. So the pea sprouts are a big hit. I grow at least one tray, and sometimes two, depending on what my menu is going to be the following week. I'll lay an additional stock of pea sprouts. This is a broccoli sprout right here, the second one on the top, the middle on the top. I always grow a broccoli, or I'll grow a kale, though I prefer broccoli because it just sprouts easiest, best, fastest it comes in. It's one of the highest nutrient sprouts you can grow. If I have a cold, I'll just sit down and snarf down about a quarter of a tray of broccoli sprouts, and I swear I get better the next day. There's something in those things. I don't know if this is the sulforaphane or the vitamin C, but whatever, it seems to help me kick my colds. So the broccoli sprouts are really healthy. And if you're going to do the cruciferae, they're the easiest of them to grow. But there's fun ones out there, other fun ones, like the red cabbage is fun because it's got the red stems on it. So there's a lot of fun cruciferae plants, cabbage family plants that you can sprout. Tatsoi and bok choy make lovely, milder microgreens too. I like those as well. But again, broccoli is my go-to. This is lettuce microgreens, and I sometimes do lettuce microgreens, but I often let them go longer, to the 3 to 4 months, 3 to 4 week stage, and I get the baby leaf. So I won't plant them quite this densely, and I'll let them grow a bit bigger. The bottom left-hand corner is amaranth, red garnet. And it just tastes lovely and slightly nutty. It's not bitter at all. It's got this kind of nutty flavor to it, sort of like the grain amaranth does. We eat the grain as well. And like the peas, amaranth is one of the higher protein microgreens. Peas are very high protein for a microgreen. And I like the color. I like the micronutrients in the color. It's got the same anthocyanins that the beets have because of that bright red color. So it's tasty and it's much easier to grow than a beet green is. That's why I prefer the amaranth to the beet greens. They are all in they're all in that the spinach family. Spinach and amaranth and beet greens, they're all in the same family. Amaranth, though, really just grows so much easier than the beets or the spinach for microgreen production. That's why I've swung over to it. It just leaps out of the tray. There's almost nothing you can do to kill it. It's this lovely cooperative microgreen, super easy and very tasty. Tastes better than spinach to me. This is my cilantro because I love Mexican food and I love fresh cilantro. So if you hate cilantro, then you can just check out on this part. Now, cilantro takes a little longer. It's a 3-week crop instead of a 2-week. Everything up to this point has been a 8-day to 12-day crop. We're now talking a full 14 to 3 weeks for the cilantro. So the cilantro has to be in a soil substrate. I've tried to grow it on the mesh trays. Does not work, just won't even sprout. So you have to have a little, it doesn't have to be a lot. You can get away with about a 1/4 inch of coconut coir with it. You can do quite a small substrate, but you have to have a little bit of something under your cilantro or it just won't cooperate and sprout. Basil, because it's mucilaginous, same thing, has to have a little bit of a substrate. But you don't have to put a lot in. Again, just the smallest amount, 1/4 inch, packed down 1/4 inch is enough. So that's what I run in my trays, which allows those substrates to go a long ways when I buy those bricks. Now, I want to take you here to this particular website just briefly, because this is where you should go to school to learn how to grow. These people are, to my mind, the best teachers. And I've looked at a lot of microgreen videos. And the lovely couple from On the Grow, is the group that I like.
Security, support.
Let's wait till these ads go away. The On the Grow people they're just a fun, lovely couple. And as you can see, they've got some good hits there, and they really do good. I said they just do good work. They approach it experimentally. They conduct research, and
I'm going to show
they're fun.
pea microgreens just like these. So stay tuned for the full walkthrough.
They grow in a trailer.
We can't see the actual video.
Oh, you can't see the video. Okay, hold on.
Just the audio.
Hold on. What I need to do is stop sharing. Bear with me, folks. I am not sharing the right thing here. Let me get back and share again. I'm sharing the wrong screen. Now, can we see it?
Perfect.
There we go. So thank you for catching that. Anyway, they're just funny. I just love this couple. They make me smile too.
So what I've done is I've taken 250 grams of seed and I've soaked them for 12 hours. We found in our space after doing a few experiments that soaking them for 12 hours gives us the best results. And what we've done is we just took a bucket. You can use a smaller.
Now, as you can see, I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing, but I just wanted you to see how she started out. They give gram contents so you can weigh and be precise about your seeds. 250 grams of seeds is about that 1/4 cup again of the pea seeds. And then they will go through and give you detailed step-by-step instructions for how to sprout anything. They'll show you how to sprout amaranth, cilantro, carrots, peas, you name it, they've got the videos. Okay, so this lovely young couple, plus I just love watching them. They make me smile and they're happy, fun people. So it's and they have gone about it very scientifically. They weigh the crop. This particular pea crop probably gave them close to 300 to 400 grams after, putting in about 250. So there's a real serious increase as you grow the vegetable for what you're putting in seed, which is why I argue that microgreens can help alleviate some of the food production issues that we've got going on, as long as we've got seed farmers. And if we were smart, speaking environmentally, we'd find a safe location and get our seed farmers located there, where it's appropriate. They've got water, there's not drought ridden. We'd get them out of the Central Valley of California and start thinking about this more mindfully. But that's just my 2 bits. I don't think anyone in the farming community is listening to me just yet. So let me just show you a few more little tidbits here. So first of all, they're good, they're scientific, they're methodical, they'll give you exact details of how to plant and what to do. So that's why
if that's what you have available to you, and put your seeds into that, and then fill some water into that bucket. And we do them just above the pea seed line because these will expand and absorb a lot of that water. So you want to make sure you give them enough water. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these over to my sink. I'm going to drain the water and I'm going to give them a good rinse, and I will meet you back at this table. So now that I have rinsed and drained my seeds, let's go over our tray setup. So in front of me, I have 3 trays. We put a medium into this.
Hold on, I want to show you something here. Now they will also show you.
Make sure those roots get all the way in. Sometimes
they show you through the whole growing cycle. That's why their videos last that long, for 12 minutes. Some of them are 30 minutes, because they show you, they keep coming back day after day, showing you the growth of the plants, exactly what they do at every step along the way, which is another reason they are more valuable than some of the other videos, which are shorter, because you get the literally blow by blow, day by day, step by step. Because here you can see she's in the middle of the grow, and she's telling you how much she's bottom watering and what she's looking for. And that's what she does right there. So that's another reason they're really good. So and now we're getting into the harvest. Plus they have a fun, the harvest time's fun too.
We can go over that real quick. So first I have my knife. We've been loving this knife. It does a great job of just gliding through all of our crops, and it's become our absolute favorite. Next, over here, I have a way of harvesting this crop into and also collecting my data. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my scale and make sure it's all zeroed out. So now we can begin harvesting this tray.
Yeah. So she'll walk you through how to harvest. They collect the data for you on what the harvest provides. And they also will walk you through how to create the nutrient solution that they use on the plants. And they also have recipes, and there's also plenty of sprout recipes on the web, so you can get those free. And they discuss storage techniques. So these are the best videos out there that I found, because they literally go from seed to plate for you. This lovely, fun young couple down there on the grow. So that's why I prefer these particular videos. And no, don't mention my name. They have no idea who I am, and I get no spiffs. All right, so just disclaimer, all right. Let me go back here and pull us back to the PowerPoint. Take this down so it doesn't make noise inadvertently. Okay. Now, this is a carrot and sprout salad. I love shredded carrot and sprouts, a few raisins, some balsamic vinegar. Ah, it's so good. It has a few radish sprouts in it, which if you like really hot, radish sprouts will knock your socks off, I promise. Doesn't take very many of those. It's got some broccoli in there. I see sunflower. I'm a little ambivalent about the sunflower. I grow peas because they don't mold as often. The seeds, the hulls to sunflower seeds, I've had more trouble with mold. And so I lose more crops. So that's why I just shifted over to peas to be sort of what I call the main healthy lettuce instead of sunflower greens. But you're certainly welcome to try the sunflower. And I do grow them from time to time just for fun. So I would be I use peas and broccoli sprouts and amaranth, and then I'll shred some carrot up and, you know, maybe throw in since I do eat vegan, there's another, primarily, I guess you'd have to call me a chegan. You know, if someone hands me a plate of meat or I'm in a restaurant, I'm not going to balk at it, but I don't purchase it for daily consumption. So I do end up using some nuts and certainly tofu or things that I'll mix in with these kinds of salads. But I eat probably 3 or 4 of these a week. Our family does. And I produce enough greens to supply 3 to 4 good salads like this every week. And then the only thing I have to purchase or grow on my outdoor garden is the carrots. So I'm totally sold on microgreens. I've been growing them now for 4 years, gotten the bugs worked out. And, you know, I want to share this success because I do believe that in this particular homegrown salad that you're seeing, we do have a way to maintain nutrition and take some weight off of the commercial farming. Here in the United States, this is my closing thoughts, we have had an unfortunate deviation away from, took longer than I thought. Sorry, folks. An unfortunate deviation away from homegrown food. They sprout in Europe all the time. They consistently sprout wheat sprouts. They do that, and then they blend them up, and they're green smoothies. And we just don't have this culture. But the Europeans have managed to. They grow a lot of seeds for the sprouting, because people are expected to sprout in their homes, and it's part of the culture. But when our factory farming system came up, we got away from this in the United States. And now it's almost like you're weird when you do this. People look at you like you're odd. It's not. It is a sustainable process. And we just have to look to Europe to see that they have sustainably developed seed distribution systems that support their people through the winter. And they are expected, in fact, their people are expected to and do grow many more servings of salads in their homes than they buy at the store. That's just simply how the Europeans, and particularly in Germany, run things. So I haven't quite understood why we got to where we did in the US. Well, I mean, I do, you know, corporate cynicism coming in here, but it's not logical from an environmental standpoint. And based on Europe's model, I believe the seeds can be produced sustainably, even in the face of some of the climate change, if we move about it smartly and prudently. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for joining me. Are there any questions?
Yes, there are some questions in the chat. I just wanted to, I have to scoot off to start the next session. So I just wanted to thank Karrin for this really informative session on growing microgreens. Now I know what I'm doing for this weekend. I'm starting my urban garden. So I hope everyone learned something new and will share this new knowledge with others. So make sure to check out the full schedule, and I'll just read. Gabriel has one question. Feel free, people can stick around and ask questions. Gabriel asked, does elevation affect microgreen growth?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I set my alarm, but for some reason my cell phone alarm didn't go off telling me to shut up. So I just kept talking because I'm a professor. We're sad, aren't we? Okay.
No worries. It was great information. People are really thanking you in the chat. So
does elevation affect microgreen growth? Not until you get above about 7,000 feet. Nope. No. Yeah. Yep.
Great. I don't see any other questions in the chat, just lots of thank yous.
No. Where we're at right here at sea level to 4,000 feet, 5,000 feet, same kind of growth. Yeah, the higher we get though, it does become, it changes, but I know they grow microgreens at over 7,000 feet in areas in Colorado, so it works. And I've got friends who are at 6,000 feet and they grow microgreens and have a greenhouse, so they're doing fine. So I think, until we get up my guess is until we get up above 10,000, you're probably not going to have too much trouble with things like microgreens. The oxygen should be sufficient up to about 10,000 feet.
Great. Thank you so much, Karrin. We really appreciate your time with us today.
Bye-bye, everybody. It looks like there weren't
Thanks,
a lot
everyone.
of questions. Good. That's good. That means I covered it all.
Very informative. Thank you.